Greetings, virtual wanderers, Aeons here. We're about to discover the land of dragons Dogma, Dark Arisen. Originally released back in 2012 for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, the base game Dragon's Dogma got an expanded version with Dark Arisen in 2013, and then later on released on PC, developed and published by Capcom. Set in a gritty medieval fantasy world, you'll play from a third-person perspective as the Arisen, who is basically a chosen warrior with a stolen heart and a destiny to slay dragons. As an action RPG, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen throws you into a world filled with mythical beasts, dungeons, and various distinct weapon types and a lot of unskippable cutscenes. There's plenty to talk about, so let's get into it. When you're not chasing dragons or getting tossed across the map by a griffin, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen offers a variety of side activities to keep you busy. You'll find plenty of NPCs scattered across the world offering side quests. You can start these quests either from those NPCs or the many quest boards in the settlements. These range from simple fetch tasks and escort missions to more involved storylines with choices that can affect outcomes. Some are time sensitive and can be failed if ignored too long, while others seem trivial but end up tying into the main story later. The quest tracking system can feel a bit vague at times though, so expect to do some wandering before finding where you're supposed to be. One of the standout features in Dragon's Dogma is treasure hunting. Some of the best loot comes from taking down world bosses, treasure chests, or diving into the game's many dungeons, especially the multi-level dungeons, Bitter Black Isle and the Everfall. Both offer rare high-stat gear, tough enemies, and replayable content with monsters that respawn over time. Bitter Black, introduced in Dark Arisen, is a deep floor-based dungeon filled with high-level threats and loot that must be purified before use. The Everfall, unlocked in the post-game, takes a different approach, with a chamber-based layout beneath Gransys, the main city, where each room is its own boss arena with high-tier rewards. Together, they form the backbone of the game's late-game content, all of which are also repeatable, so you can enjoy them as many times as you want. Perfect for testing your build and grinding rare items. Next up, shopping. Merchants are scattered around towns, encampments, and outposts, each offering a distinct set of goods. General stores sell curatives, tools, and basic gear. Weapon and armor smiths offer class-specific equipment that updates as you progress through the story. Some shops even carry rare or enchanted items depending on your quest progression or NPC relationships. So keep an eye out for the merchants as you might find something useful, even in the later game. You can enhance weapons and armor using materials looted from enemies or gathered in the wild. Things like ores, beast parts, and monster claws. You can enhance up to 3 levels in total for each piece of gear. Vendors can also refine your equipment if you bring them the right materials, and later in the game, you'll unlock higher tier upgrades through battles against dragons. On the item side, you can combine various herbs, mushrooms, and monster drops to craft curatives, buffs, and utility items like explosives or resistance potions. The system encourages experimentation. Some combinations are straightforward while others require a bit of trial and error. It's not overly complex, but it adds a useful layer of preparation before tougher fights or dungeon runs. All that being said, there's just enough things to do when you're taking a break from the main story. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen offers more than a decent open world. The game is divided into one main area, being Gransys, and one additional area, Bitter Black Isle, which is more of a small area to enter its dungeon. However, Bitter Black Isle is locked behind a bit of progression, so you can't just stroll over to it from the main area at the start. These two areas are by no means connected to each other. So when it comes to traveling between the two areas, you can either go to an NPC that takes you there by boat, aka in simpler terms, a loading screen, or by fast traveling there with a special stone item you get later on in the game. This item can also be used to fast travel to points you've marked in the game with a crystal-like item. You can also just simply go on foot to these locations. but within the boundary of one area. The areas themselves, like the mainland of Gransys, is one big scalable map. Some parts of Gransys does funnel you through narrow corridors though, so you will have some steep slopes acting as hard invisible walls in the area. You'll also have more softer invisible walls when you try to head into the open ocean. It pretty much just respawns you back on the shore. Aside from that, you also get a loading screen every time you enter a dungeon, fortress, or any decent sized settlement, but not when you enter a building. Onto Bitter Black Isle, it is more of an additional transition area, so it is an area that is very small in size. Dragon's Dogma gives some good points when it comes to area freedom, but it still isn't quite there yet. The world of Dragon's Dogma delivers a gritty medieval fantasy atmosphere with landscapes that are rugged, grounded, and often drenched in moody lighting. From the windswept fields near Gransys to the eerie marshes of Witchwood and the craggy cliffs of Blue Moon Tower, each location has a small piece of its own identity, even if the color palette leans heavily towards earth tones. The ambient soundtrack and environmental sound design work hand in hand here as well. Wolves howling in the dark, the rustle of leaves on forest trails, and the ominous music of nearby enemies help sell the world's tension. Moving on, the settlements scattered throughout the world make an effort to feel inhabited. Gransys, the capital, is the liveliest, with more than plenty of NPCs going about their routines, merchants calling out, guards patrolling, and even townsfolk discussing rumors. Smaller settlements and outposts like Cassardis or the Great Wall are quieter, but still feature blacksmiths working, innkeepers tending to their business, and random NPCs offering quests. NPCs mostly stand around or follow somewhat predetermined paths, but there's just enough activity to give the illusion of life, especially when paired with the day-night cycle. Even more smaller outposts like campsites exist, but they're very minimal, mostly with a few NPCs that allow you to sleep, store, or shop items. Outside the walls, you'll encounter very few NPCs and even fewer giving you side quests. I mean, you'll see a few NPCs walking along some paths, especially near the starting settlement, but for the most part, most paths are lacking that little spice of NPC life. When it comes to wildlife, there is a number of different types of animals filling up the land. Wolves, deers, rabbits, and snakes can be spotted in various regions. How about enemies? You won't have any trouble finding them as the land is filled with more hostiles than friendly NPCs and wildlife. However, most areas outside of the settlements feel empty, specifically in the larger, more widespread parts of the map. On that note, while the game stands strong inside its settlements, it certainly has its weak points outside of it. Now let's talk about what you can customize in the game. Right from the start, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen gives you a solid character creator. It's not the most in-depth by today's standards, but it's flexible enough to let you sculpt your Arisen's height, weight, body shape, facial structure, voice, and more. And it's not just for looks. Your character's size and weight actually affect gameplay, like stamina consumption and other finer details. Also, you can change these later on in one of the shops, just in case you change your mind. After customizing yourself, you also get to create your main pawn, your loyal AI-controlled companion who sticks with you throughout the game. You design them just like your Arisen, but also choose their base physical appearance, vocation, and personality inclination preferences. You can also give your pawn custom armor and weapons, making them feel like a true extension of your character. Combat customization is where it starts to get fun. Each class or vocation has its own set of active skills and passive augments that you unlock over time. You can equip up to 3 active skills per weapon, allowing you to create loadouts tailored to your role, whether that's DPS, tanking, or support. The deeper you go into a vocation, the more powerful and flashy your abilities become. There are also hybrid vocations like the Mystic Knight vocation, where you can either pick a sword or magic staff on top of the skills and augments you can mix and match. So the game gives you just a bit more freedom to experiment with the vocations. Moving on to gear, your gear setup includes weapons, armor, rings, and cloaks, each with its own weight and stats. The game uses an encumbrance system, so how much you carry affects your stamina and movement speed. You can equip multiple sets for different situations, like a light loadout for traveling, or a heavy set for dungeon crawling, but there's no quick swap option, so it's best to plan ahead. Magic and physical resistances vary widely across these armor types, so the right gear for one fight might not be the best for another. That and well, your preference, because each gear is also tied to a certain set of classes. All in all, having enough customization in Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is definitely an understatement. One of Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen's strongest hooks is how it ties together its vocation system, gear, items, and world bosses into a gameplay loop that just feels good. You'll find that experimenting with the different combat skills loadout while going up against the many world bosses can be really fun, especially if you can hit their weak spots. For example, as a Mystic Knight, which is a hybrid between a mage and a knight, you can use Great Cannon to summon an orb of light that fires magical bolts whenever you strike through it with your weapon. Now pair that with gear and items that actually boost your playstyle. You can have gear and items that boost your stamina, strength, and so on. All this even ties back to the main story. Key quests reward you with gear or items that often synergize with your current vocation, giving you a nice power spike and a reason to keep pushing forward. They can enhance your effectiveness depending on your build, like the Paladin's Mantle, which boosts both magic defense and strength, making it ideal for Mystic Knights. It's a subtle but effective way the game nudges you to see the story through, not just for narrative closure but for gameplay progression. To put it simply, engagement is something you won't lack at any point in the game.
Our fealty is sworn to you, Arisen. From this day, the Legion's men called pawns live and die by your command.
If there's one mechanic that makes Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen truly stand out in the crowded field of fantasy RPGs, it's the pawn system. Rather than traditional party members with their own pack stories and quest lines, the game gives you your own customizable companion, your main pawn. Almost like your character, your main pawn is fully customizable. However, the additional feature is its personality inclination, which affects how they act in combat or during one of your many expeditions, whether they're aggressive, supportive, or cautious. This AI-driven ally follows you throughout the entire game, growing alongside your character and continuously learning. What's interesting is your pawn learns from every monster battle, area you explore, and quests you complete, which can be useful when you're trying to complete the game or your next playthroughs of the same save. How, you might ask? They simply tell you what you need to do, or give you a hint. Where it gets even better is the rest of your party of 4 is filled with other pawns that you can switch out at any time. You switch them out by either picking new pawns in a different dimension, aka the Rift, or ones that are just pacing around the world. And when you bring them in, they don't just join your adventure, they bring everything over. Their gear, class, skills, and knowledge. You can always have a look at their knowledge level from their stats before you even rent them out. If they have knowledge of a boss or know the layout of a quest, they'll tell you. Need a healer? A DPS sorcerer who's already fought a chimera? The system rewards mixing and matching, letting you build a party that fits your style and your current needs. In short, the pawn system's intricacies bring about what makes the game different from others.
Your dragon forged will speak for my diligence in that. The choice falls not to me, nor to the whims of fate. It is yours alone.
To end this journey where it began, on the back of a dragon, it's safe to say that Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is an experience worth diving into. The game has much to offer as a fantasy game with open world mechanics. You'll more than likely enjoy the game's seemingly countless side activities, vast amount of deep customization options, engaging story-tied mechanics that will keep you playing non-stop, and unique pawn system that comes with its many intricacies. However, the game has some slight shortcomings too, be it its more than preferable corridor-like areas, or its less lively areas outside of the settlements. All things considered, the game still proves itself to be a notable pick in the genre, receiving an A tier from us.